What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Fit, Healthy, and most of all Happy podcast. As always, I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
We got some coffees today, drinking that Starbucks blend. We've been experimenting with some different blends, but been finding this one gets us nice and fired up, and it is Motivation Monday, so it is time to jump into it. And we always like to start off with our favorite quote of the week, a quote that we find is impactful and is going to be a big benefit to you in your journey. And I'm going to start with mine because I've actually had this one in the pipeline since last week. I've been really wanting to share it. So here it is. So this is from Tony Robbins, and that is that by changing nothing changes. And it sounds so simple, almost too simple, but if we're sitting around, we've spoke a little bit last week about talking, or we're just saying we want to do these things, we're talking about it, yada yada, it's not going to get us anywhere. And if we're doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, that is literally the definition of insanity. So instead, if you say, I want to lose weight, you have to change something in your schedule. You need to either start doing more in the sense of logging your food, eating healthier, buying better groceries, and sometimes it's about doing less. So not having that extra drink, not having that dessert, not going out to dinner 8 times a week, all these ridiculous different things. So by changing nothing changes. It's so simple, but keep in mind, if you want change in your life, if you want to get somewhere you've never been, you have to do something that you've never done.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that quote. Mine is from the same individual, and if you want to just search him up, he has some great content, Tony Robbins. He is guaranteed to get you hyped up and just get you thinking differently. So my quote this week is, where focus goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, whatever you're focusing on grows. So in other words, your life is controlled by what you focus on. That's why you need to focus on where you want to go, not on what you fear. And I think this is just very powerful because we can spend all our time and just focus on a lot of the wrong things. And I see that happen very often. And one of the things I heard years ago was focus. The acronym, it actually stands for focus on one course until successful. And I think it's so often, and I'll relate this back to the fitness journey, where a lot of people focus on a million different things, just that new fat burner that took place, the new high intentional interval training circuit that just was posted on Instagram, maybe a new fad diet that's come out. But I find that those who are the most successful, not just in fitness, but also in life and career and, relationships, everything like that, have everything dialed in on that main one thing. And if you do want to make a change, focus on that one course until you're successful and then move to that next thing. And that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, now into our weekly thoughts and recommendations. I don't have much because I'm really excited for the questions this week. We have excellent questions. So make sure you're tuned in, you're focused, because you're going to learn a lot from today's episode. But I just want to thank everyone who took a few seconds to subscribe to us on YouTube. This podcast is now available on video, so you can check that out at our YouTube channel, the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast. That will be the first link in the description down below, so you can definitely check that out. And we're just about at 500 subscribers already, which is crazy for only having been doing this for now about 2 weeks. It's awesome to be at that 500 subscriber mark, especially just dedicated for the podcast, and even for our YouTube, we're getting close to 150,000. But we're really proud of this podcast, and we think it's awesome we've been able to be on video. So if you can hit that sub button, you have a YouTube account, you can check it out, you can tip us over that 500. We would be eternally grateful, and you definitely want to be checking us out on video. And as always, if you're watching this on video on YouTube, comment the word down below for a chance to win a special prize. We're going to pick one person who's commented the keyword here, so only the video gang will see this one, but I just want to give a special shout out there.
So yeah, the main thing that's been on the top of my head is we've been playing daily chess, which has been a super great challenge. It's my first time learning. Josh taught me, and we've been having a bunch of friends come down, and we've just been having some crazy tournaments. But my brain's a pretty wild place. Like, I always think when I try something new, how can I relate this to the fitness journey or to life to be able to teach you guys some things as well? And so I've learned a lot, which is cool. I'm definitely getting better. And a few things that really stuck to me was just like relating it to being aggressive and taking action. So Josh has been giving me some incredible tips, not nearly as good as him, but I'm definitely starting to get a lot better. And I realized that at first I would always lose, and I was like super bad because I would sit back, play on defense, wait for something to happen and not really do anything. And that's the same with the fitness journey. I think a lot of times people are waiting for that perfect opportunity, for the gym situation to be so ideal, and their timing and their schedule and their meals and everything like that. And then they're just always on defense and never end up actually taking that leap. And the thing that I think really stood out to me was just like planning and thinking ahead. So it's been crazy because even your mind, it's pretty wild when you play it. Like, it's said that you can burn anywhere between between 100 and 200 calories for like a really good game of chess because of how much you're thinking and everything like that. People start to, fiddle around and stuff like that, which is pretty wild. And long story short is I feel like when you don't have that game plan of like your next move and the one after that and the one after that, it's very hard to succeed. So I'd say a lot of people nutritionally, workout wise, just anything fitness related are always just like thinking of that one step ahead. It's hard to hit your macros if you're only planning this one meal in front of you. But for me personally, I usually know my entire day ahead. I know when I'm going to get my cardio in, when my workouts are in. So by being one step ahead or two steps ahead, you're able to succeed and be able to deviate. Even if you know a party's coming up and you're able to allocate that into your calories, like you're going to succeed a lot better, just like chess, when you know the steps ahead and at least you have some sort of rough guideline. So check out the Instagram post. We did share the photo as well as a couple different tips. Follow us on Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusFit, and that's all been on the top of my head.
Yeah, you can draw lessons from anything you do in life, even if it's like knitting. I'm sure there's a lot of parallels you can take towards your life, but chess is really fun because it's a game, and it's a game of offense and defense. And the biggest thing I want to reiterate from what Kyle said is moving with intention and moving with purpose. Chess, I find anytime someone just goes, I'm just going to do this, it's random, it's not thought through, there can be a consequence to that. A good example of that could be, I'm just going to max out for no reason today on my squat, even though I haven't been squatting for a while, and you end up hurting yourself. Or just moving with no purpose or plan, or not pre-logging as opposed to pre-logging, it's going to be detrimental. There can be a negative to that. And even in your journey, you have to say, is what I'm doing moving me towards my goals, or is it a risk and moving me away from them? And when you begin to think that way, it can be very powerful, and it's kind of fun to simulate that in a little bit of a game. So I thought that was an excellent thought. And now we're going to jump into our client shout out, which is my client Kelvin. I'm incredibly proud of him because he has lost a ridiculous amount of fat and replaced it with an even more ridiculous amount of muscle. He's looking just absolutely incredible. He's seen amazing change, and what I'm most proud of him for more than anything is he's someone who continues to motivate other people and to encourage them. He's a prominent photographer in Singapore, and he has recommended now dozens of people into our coaching program, which has been absolutely fantastic. And because he took action and he leveled up his fitness and health for himself, for his family, for his friends, he's now encouraged dozens of others to do just the same. So not only does he have an incredible transformation, he's also motivated others to do the same. And listening to this, I promise you that you can do it as well. And that is why we have a special promo just because of this. So if you DM us Muscle Gain on Instagram to @ColossusFit, ColossusFit, if you're looking to gain 10 plus new pounds of muscle and take off unwanted fat and build a strong and sexy physique, then this is for you. So once again, go ahead and DM us Muscle Gain if that is what you're looking to do, and we're really excited to help you out at a special discounted rate. Now into the question. So the first question, and this is a really fun one, is how long should I work out in the gym? I have a busy schedule, but I want to put on some muscle. So first and foremost, this can go a million different ways, and there's a lot of considerations. I took quite a few notes on this, and also I am linking an article I will be discussing in the show notes here. So we mentioned there's a lot of good stuff in the show notes. So if you're on YouTube, it's in that little description down below. If you're on Spotify, the show notes are there, as well as timestamps, so you can always bounce around if you want to refer back, go to a specific question, anything great like that. And just the same with iTunes. So you'll see all the good stuff there. You'll see our Instagram. You'll see how to find us so you can message us Muscle Gain. You'll see how to subscribe on YouTube and comment the special keyword to be entered for the prize. All that good stuff, it's all in the description down below, so make sure you take advantage of it. But for most people who want to build muscle, the common thing you'll see is for most people to be lifting about 45 to 60 minutes in the gym. That's generally the recommendation you'll get from most people. Now keep in mind at who you ask and their specific situation. If you're 400 pounds, you've hardly moved a muscle in your life, you don't work out, and you're going to the gym for the first time and you lift for 60 minutes, it'll probably be way too intense and way too taxing on you and wouldn't really make sense. So when you're starting out, it's okay to do a little bit less. But where this can be a trap is if you come and you say, I'm going to do 15, 20 minutes, kind of feels silly, especially if you're driving to the gym 15 or 20 minutes to lift 15 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it may be. So if you start really low, you do want to make sure you are progressively challenging that. But I do find 45 minutes to 60 minutes is a sweet spot, and that's kind of where most people recommend, about 3 to 5 times a week. However, when you get over that 60 minutes, that's where things get a little funky. A lot of people will say, well, hey, slow down, you're probably overtraining. That's too much. And there's actually an old myth as well about cortisol, that after 60 minutes, your body's going to pump a ton of cortisol and you're going to be getting negative effects, and you do better to stop at that 60-minute point. But this article I referenced down below, which is fantastic, it went through a ton of different studies in its references, which I love, but they mentioned how for decades there has been a rather baseless theory floating around bodybuilding subculture that lifting weights intensely for longer than 60 minutes will cause the body to release a ton of cortisol and catabolize all your precious muscle tissue. And what I love that the author said is they said, notice how it's always a nice round number. So 60 minutes, it's not 57.2 minutes, it's 60 minutes. And this theory in itself doesn't really make a ton of sense if you think about it, because 60 minutes of lifting for one person versus another is completely different. Take that guy who's powerlifting. He's near max every set. He's doing percentage-based training. He's taxing himself and thrashing himself. And then take someone else who maybe they're on their phone on the adductor machine for 60 minutes. There's no reason the body's going to be stressed and start ramping out cortisol after that 60 minutes. That's where not all volume is created the same. And this is where consideration does need to be kept in with a proper training structure. But in general, this myth has been seriously disproven, because cortisol actually is just generally summarized as enemy. It's a bad thing, it's a stress hormone, but that isn't necessarily the case. Studies have showed that cortisol is essential for building muscle as well as removing fat. And hormones and hormone structure is a lot more complicated than fitness influencers will make it out to be. They'll just, throw out these ultimatums where it's like cortisol is horrible, avoid it at all costs. But your body has structures, and muscle building in general is responding to stress. Stress can be positive. You tearing muscle fibers is what causes them to grow and put on more muscle. And this is something that needs to be considered. And you'll notice a lot of science-based, just experts in fitness are actually training a lot longer than the 60 minutes. So someone like Lane Norton trains for about 2 hours. That's where he feels good. And what he argues is most people's minds will give out before their body. And even myself, I've been challenging my training time. We're down here in beautiful Florida. I have access to an incredible gym, and I've been challenging myself to do a little bit more volume, but to make sure I feel good. And I've been going towards about 90 minutes. I usually typically work at about 75. But you'll see, these are a bunch of random numbers. You're like, okay, so where is this going? So the truth is, you're better to start off with less, see how you respond to it, and see how you manage. If you're doing 45 to 60, you're doing that well, you're getting a good challenge. You can add in a bit of volume and progressively increase that to make sure you're getting more response and more muscle development. Now, at a certain point, let's say you're like, I want the best results ever, so I'm going to be like, Josh, I'm going to go to the gym for 90 minutes. And then you want to do that, but you go, ooh, I don't have 90 minutes to go to the gym, so I'm going to skip. And you end up skipping all your workouts. That is net worse than you going 5 times at 45 minutes. So you need to be very real with yourself, your schedule, your time, and most importantly, your ability. Some people have been shown they can recover way better from the gym, and some people just get taken out of the gym. It's really tough. Them training hard really messes them up, and they don't have that same capacity. Maybe their sleep isn't as good, their nutrition isn't as good. But eventually, at a higher level, I think there's nothing wrong with most people working up towards that 90-minute mark. If you like talking more and you like just spending your time in there, I have a ton of clients who enjoy being in the gym. They enjoy socializing. It's their escape. They listen to music. They smile. They're networking. They're doing all these things. That is totally fine as well. So there is nothing wrong with that at all. And you can kind of play around with that in your structure. And what I love from the author here too is they said, ultimately, if you're actually training intensely, the odds you won't last much longer than 2 to 3 hours in the gym anyway. I could see the cortisol response being an issue if someone is training 4 to 5 hours at a time for weeks on end, but that's not the cortisol's fault. That's not an issue of not having a life. Seriously, go do something else for a few hours. So if the gym is really important to you, you want the best results possible, you're able to allocate 90 minutes, you're able to allocate more time, that is totally fine. I would just do that progressively and generally, as opposed to just ramping into it, because when you adapt up to that, it'll be kind of hard to wiggle. And if you're only doing 30 now, bump it to 45, maybe bump it to an hour, and keep building from there, and you'll be able to see continued growth.
I love that. And what's really cool is like ability that our body has to adapt, essentially. Even for myself, like Josh was saying, like we used to do a little bit shorter back home, and it's been really cool to see just like the differences and just like how we're able to just get to that next level in terms of just like strength, in terms of recovery, in terms of just like performance. And even one thing I'm starting to notice is like usually around the same mark, I think it's around like the 70-minute mark, I'll always kind of feel like, holy, this is a lot. And I realize it's just based off of what I've been used to. I used to kind of finish my workouts just after an hour. It's kind of, it is what it is. And then when you realize, wow, I can keep pushing, like I got another 20 minutes. And, usually I'd be like, okay, I'm done. But it is pretty cool because even like Josh said, like how powerful our mind is. It's just, sometimes it's based off of habits. Like I know some people, they're in the gym usually 45 minutes. The second that minute hits, they start to get a little bit antsy. They're starting to think, oh man, I need to get out of here. And it's just based off of a lot of that stuff. So I do challenge you to, if you do have the time, like really push yourself and see what you can do. And, even for us, like it's not like we go in there and waste any time. Like we literally walk in, hit the dress room, change and get out there and start going. I think a lot of people will do 20 minutes of mobility and, just 15-minute warm up. They'll look down like, holy, I've been here for 30 minutes. So for us, it's like real solid lifting. And it's been a lot easier, especially because we've been so focused on protein intake, very focused on recovery, and very focused on working up to it. It is a big challenge when some people go from 45 minutes and like, you know what, I'm going to go work out with someone for an hour and a half. Like your body's going to feel it. Like, yeah, we're sore, but based off of just being used to something, we're able to just get to that next level and slowly increase, which has been really cool to see. So that was a great question and some great tips from Coach Josh.
Yeah, and it's not always about going wider with the time. Sometimes it's about going deeper with the workouts. And what I love, even Ben Bergeron has a book called Chasing Excellence. He is like a trainer to a lot of the top athletes. And he has a big argument that the best athletes are just the people that have more mental focus and mental discipline. So just the same, if you're only in the gym for 60 minutes or you have 45 minutes of your lunch break, that is it. You could very possibly get more value than someone could in 90 minutes if you're going deeper into that workout. And what I mean by that is airplane mode on the phone, airplane mode on the phone, being intentional with every set, working on mind-muscle connection, improving quality, using weights that challenge you and get you near your RARs. There's a lot of ways where you can use less time, but use it very intentionally. I would rather someone do that than just fill their workout full of junk volume, do nonsense movements, not be challenging themselves. So that's where it does go a lot of different ways. But I find one of the biggest barriers, and I love that Kyle brought it up, is just that need to rush out of there. It's like, oh, it's been 60 minutes, get me out. But if you want the best results possible, you kind of got to challenge that mindset and learn to enjoy it. And even in life, we mentioned being present and stillness and the concept of not always needing to chase that next thing. Because if you're always living into the future and what you're going to do and where you need to be, it's hard to enjoy that moment. Instead, enjoy every set, enjoy the breaths in between the set, just take some time for you yourself. I was even telling one of our buddies that to me, it's one of my best time for thinking. And a lot of studies have been done that people have some of their best and most profound thoughts in the gym, in the shower, washing dishes. It's these little pauses where we have a small task and we're able to just blank out our mind and be present in that moment. And I like using this as an opportunity to do that so I can see it as a mental exercise as well as a physical. So I really like this question because there's a ton of considerations, and that's why I tried to answer it how I did, because it really does depend. There's a ton of variables. Your style of workout really matters as well. If you're doing HIIT workouts and you're just go circuit training, 90 minutes would probably absolutely massacre you. If you're doing powerlifting, 90 minutes might be a little bit short. Some powerlifters are in there a long time, 6-7 minute rest. So there's quite a few considerations to have here, but that is question one. Also, with all that said, if you want to be in the best training regimen you can for you, one that really focuses on your weaknesses, your strengths, your goals, really manages your time, focuses on advanced concepts such as DUP, MED, MRV, all these different things. If you don't know what that is, don't worry, we will take care of you. Go ahead and DM us Muscle Gain on Instagram if you're looking to put on 10 plus pounds of muscle, remove fat, and build a strong and sexy physique. Once again, DM us Muscle Gain to our Instagram at ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. Now into number 2. So what is the best time to work out? The morning or the night? All my friends go in the morning and say it's better. I want to go with them, but I'm just not a morning person. And the few times I have gone, I've had to drag myself there and my training sessions sucked.
So this is this is honestly an incredible question. And we get asked it quite often because I talk about morning workouts a lot. A lot of people think that that is the most optimal time, and it really depends. As we always say, it depends on your situation. But the main thing here, and the way I want to answer it, is to get you to start to think about a couple different things and answer it for yourself. So for me, the first thing to consider is when will you be able to be the most consistent? If morning is just the hardest time ever, you're used to getting up at a certain time, it's just never going to work, it may not be for you. Once again, there are a lot of things to consider. If at night you're always getting calls, you have to go to work, you have to take care of things, your kids are calling, everything else, that also probably won't be the best time. Now, as I was saying before with chess, I don't believe there will ever be a perfect time, a perfect move, a perfect situation, but there are a lot of things to consider. Now, the reason I will say that the morning has been the best for a lot of people is because that's usually your time. Yes, it's harder to get out of bed. Yes, you may be a little bit more tired, but you feel incredible for the rest of the day. Usually no one's bothering you. A lot of times people aren't even up at that time. And I will say, I've seen some incredible changes in a lot of people. A lot of my clients, a lot of Josh's, a lot of our entire Colossus coaching clients who get up at incredible times and who said, hey, I've never been a morning person, but the more that I get used to it, even just as I was saying before, it's amazing how your body gets used to something. In our mind, we may say, I'm so horrible at getting up. I'm not a morning person. But I'd say a lot of times that's just a mental limitation. A lot of times it's just you having that belief that you can't get up. You know, you can do a lot of different things. You can have some pre-workout, you know, maybe having a little bit of energy through a banana, stuff like that, making sure that your bedtime routine is the best. But more of the story is it's mainly when you can be the most consistent. I will say your body typically does adapt. And another thing to consider though is that also it really depends on like the quality of the workouts. For people who do transition to morning workouts, I do find that it does take a little bit of time for them to build up to get used to it. You may have a little bit less food, a little bit less energy and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, if it's like slightly lower quality of a workout and you're able to get the full thing in versus having to skip later on, I would take that over the situation where you're going later on in the day. So those are just a bunch of different recommendations for you to think about, make your decision. And ultimately, if you can stay consistent with it, that's what really matters.
Yeah, what I always say to my clients is I don't care when you go as long as you get it done. And some people really just do operate better at night. And the gym's also an entirely different vibe at night. Find like after 6 p.m. there's like a lot more people socializing. You get all those people that just finish that work, and like it's just an entirely different vibe. And if that's a vibe you like a little bit of the chaos, you get charged up by the energy, you like that you can be in there and maybe you have more time to be in there than you would in the morning if you have to rush out to work. That's totally cool. But like as Kyle said, you just got to make sure you get that in, because I do believe that willpower drains throughout the day more and more and more. Every email, every text, every decision, every annoying phone call you get, whatever it is, it starts to take a little bit of it out. And then usually at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, I'm going to go in and crush a workout. So that's where I struggle. I find it's like 100 times harder for me to work out at night, but I do know some people that have a ton of success with it. And be honest with yourself. If you like the night more and you're actually doing consistent, that's totally cool. But if you just say you like the night more so you don't have to get up in the morning, but you're not even going at night, you do better to get up in the morning and to really fix it, because to me, that's my time. It's a lot less likely that someone will need you super early in the morning at 6, 7, 8 a.m. than they will at like 5, 6, 7 p.m. because things can always pop up, plans can be made. So that, in my opinion, is the best question. But in this person's case, if you just don't like it and you're happy working out with yourself, keep going at night. But if you'd rather learn to work out with your friends, it's something that'll take a little bit of time, but you will get there. And that was actually the other note I wanted to make with the volume. When increasing volume in your training a lot, especially being on a higher volume training system, especially from people who are very low volume is nice because you don't get beat up. It's easy, it's comforting. Like I said, you saw a lot of this like 5 years ago or so when there was a lot of hate around volume. But as more and more science has come out that the more volume you can do, the more you can handle, the more muscular and the more results you're going to get. We're seeing that more and more. We're seeing people have more density to their workouts, which I think is awesome. And I can say from experience, from coaching, volume is a powerful thing as long as you can withstand it. But it does take a little bit of time. So if you are jumping into more volume, expect to feel really beat up and just to kind of have everything taken out of you for about 2 to 4 weeks. Usually I'd say around 3 weeks is when you're going to start to feel good and you're going to adapt. But when you do, you'll adapt well, and you'll put on more muscle and you'll be in this higher threshold. But whenever you do something newer and harder, expect it to take it out of you. Expect to feel a little bit beat down, a little bit weaker, but that effect will reverse. So that was an awesome question and just a little addition I wanted to have there. Now into the final question for today. And if you'd like to go ahead and submit a question, you can comment down below on the YouTube video here. You can go ahead and DM us on Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusUSFIT. Either one of those works absolutely well. So if you have a question that's on your mind, you want to ask us it, please do, because there's a chance other people want to hear it as well, and we would love to answer it. But into the third question. I feel like I'm not taking enough time between sets, and I'm not sure what the optimal rest time is. Any suggestions here? So I find it's so easy to get so caught up on like specific times, like 60 seconds, 45 seconds, 90 to 120. Like you're already probably wanting to write it down. Like, ooh, what do you say? What's the context? But my number one tip, especially if you have like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, is just take the time you need to recover. You can kind of use your heart rate as an idea. I like to be below 130, 120, but you'll know when you feel good. My thing is, if you finish a set and you're already rushing to go to the next set and you can't even talk, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. That's not me being ready. You need to let your body reset. And my whole thing is you need to be able to say, hey, am I able to do this next set at least 95% the capacity of the last one? You will fatigue. And a lot of people will say, even clients will say, hey, this says 3x8. I get 8 easy, then I get 8 a little bit harder, and then I can only do 7. Is that okay? That's absolutely okay. As you do more sets and more volume, your muscles are going to tire more, and you're going to have to build into that. Then eventually you get to the point where you can do the 8 easy, you can do the 8 easy again, and then you can do an 8 third time, but it's super hard. Then before you know it, you can do all 3 8s really easy. Then you can up that weight, and then you kind of rinse and repeat that cycle, and that's where you'll feel best. But what's important, where beginners go really wrong, is they don't give themselves enough time to rest. You resting is not lazy. Sometimes I'll take 3 minutes. Sometimes I'll take 8 minutes if I have to. When I'm powerlifting, I'm doing crazy heavy squats. There's just no way I'll be able to do that weight unless I let my body recover. Now, if you're taking 8 minutes for a bicep curl, you're wasting time and you're truthfully like making a mistake there, because that's ridiculous. So my general rule, I don't love the specific numbers, but I find most of my hypertrophy, my easier things where I'm doing isolated muscle groups like a bicep curl or a lateral raise, those quote unquote easier movements, I'll only need about 60 seconds. And then if I'm doing a compound or something that involves multiple muscle groups, I'll find I'll need about 60 to 120 seconds, and I'm good most of the time in there. And then for bench squat and deadlift in particular, I'll usually allocate about 2 to 5 minutes depending on how intense it is. But once again, I'm at a level where I am doing a lot of weight, and if you're deadlifting like 600 pounds, you're squatting 300 plus pounds, you could see where you're going to need more capacity for rest. Whereas if you're really new to the gym, you can probably get away with 60 seconds for most things. But eventually, if you're like, hey, it's been 60 seconds, but this set's going to suck, take a few more seconds, do it right, get the right contraction, lift the right weight, and get the results from that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask, like, how do you know how long you're resting and stuff like that if they see us work out in the gym? But honestly, since we've been in for over 10 years, like, there's just a specific type of feeling. Like, it's hard to describe, but just you know when your body just feels like you're ready to attack it. And for me personally, I like to listen to my body. And today, I actually kind of messed up. I was jumping around a little bit too quick. I did 8 solid reps on my first set and then just didn't take enough time rest. I got 4, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this again. So I ended up attacking it, taking the right rest periods. But it is a common mistake to just feel the need to like keep going, rush. And that's why I'm glad that all these questions kind of go hand in hand very well with like the workout structure and stuff like that. And I see so often people just feeling the need to like just keep like running around and doing all these crazy things, and they get down to it and they're losing strength. You're not able to do as much volume. You're not going to be able to get the progressive overload by making this very common mistake. So, you know, even we all go through those little times, but I would say one of the biggest things I always ask myself, like Josh said, am I able to do what I just did the same, or if not better? If not, just wait a little bit. There's no problem with that. I do find that when I'm working out with Josh, I don't use any timers. We just do what we need to do. There's always that feeling. We got the good momentum. We have some incredible flow. But when I'm by myself, I do use a timer typically, because I find that I can check my phone a little bit too much or just get a little bit too distracted. And I would say even for you to use that as a guideline, if you are someone who uses social media, which I do not recommend, we all make those mistakes here and there, but I would say just using a little bit of a timer to give you that little reminder, okay, now it's going to be time to roughly go. It's very easy to be sitting on the seated row machine and then 4 or 5 minutes goes by and you're like, holy, like what just went on? So I will say it is a good reminder if you are newer and need that accountability with the timer from your watch or your phone.
Yeah, I would definitely minimize the social media time, because we've all been down those YouTube rabbit holes or whatever it is. You go on Instagram, you see your buddy did something, like, what? They did this, involves this friend, you're digging into it, and before you know, 8 minutes has gone by and you'll have no conception. I find a really nice thing too is it's a great mental exercise to be present, to be in the moment, to be in your thoughts, to just sit there on the machine, kind of getting ready for your next set, letting your body recover, feeling that feeling of your body being tired and fatigued from just completing a set, to seeing it kind of rejuvenate itself and to get the energy and focus and intention to crush the next one. It is hard, but it will go a long way. And a big tip I have is challenge that mindset that you just need to get in there and get your workout done. Instead, say, how can I do this with quality? How can I be intentional with my rest? How can I challenge myself to lift more weights and do it better so I can progress and see the results I want? And when you flip that mindset of just rushing, getting things done, instead, I want to do this with intention and having it build, just like Kyle said with chess, to your next move, to growth, to development, that's how you're going to see way more results in the gym, because if you just keep going in doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So as I said earlier, connecting this whole podcast, where is it? Right here. Let's jump into it. By changing nothing, nothing changes. So you're doing the same weight, doing the same rest times, nothing's changing. You're not going to progress. You're just going to keep doing the same. You'll stay healthy, but you're not going to get that progression. So change something, up that weight, be intentional with that rest, and see some killer results. And if you want us to guide you with that, you want to put on some serious muscle, see the change you've always wanted to see, learn how we can help clients get 5 times the results they would get on their own, go ahead and message us Muscle Game on Instagram to @ColossusFit, ColossusFit. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. If you're at the end of this episode, we really appreciate you. Got a ton of great content in here. Go out, apply it in the gym, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that would mean the world, and you'll get a lot of exclusives. You'll be able to see the content, and if you get that keyword at the start of the episode, you'll be entered for a special prize, which would be really cool. So thanks everyone for listening. Peace out.